Jiren breaks into Fusion World as Red's first 25k leader and serves as a brand new Gatekeeper deck. Welcome to Archetype 101. I'm Espira and we'll be breaking down Red Jiren. We'll be going over what the deck aims to do, an example deck list to get you started, and some gameplay to see in action. Without further ado, let's get started. Jiren is a red leader released in Raging Roar. He's a typical draw type leader, however, awakens at 3 life. On his awakened side, Jiren is a 25k tank type leader. Like other tank leaders, he does lose his innate ability to draw, however, gains some interesting perks to compensate. His permanent allows him to only take 1 damage per combat if there is a rested 30k on board, and if he does take damage, he gets an additional draw from the deck. This combos perfectly with the deck's new 4-cost SR Jiren, whom can prevent being KO'd once per turn and has an activate battle that allows you to take damage and regain the life. In combination with your leader, this offers a raw draw 2 for the deck per activation, and if your leader was being attacked into, counts as the 1 damage per combat, thus negating an entire attack. The brand new SR Vegeta also serves as a powerful body that's hard to remove, attacking for a massive 50k power and allowing you to control the board. This incredible leader ability, in combination with Red's suite of inherently powerful cards, allows his deck to lock out many other strategies in the game. When it comes to building Red Jiren, there's the unfortunate fact that the Pride Troopers aren't incredibly powerful. A lot of them require you to have multiple on boards to be able to have a specific effect, and they themselves don't really offer much that's all that interesting. I think some of the best ones are like 2-drop Dispo, which is really hard to remove from the board, and you get a couple of other neat cards like Casserole is a Self-Awakener that also allows you to play out of body, and then you've got this 2-drop blocker as well that allows you to be able to take a life. So there are cards in Pride Troopers that can do interesting things. The idea of getting a double cannon maximum for like a lot of damage is really neat. Unfortunately, I just don't think that that is there. And so our build will be leaning on just red good stuff, which is honestly probably the best way to run it also. Of course, we're running a playset of the Jirens just because it's obviously one of the best things the deck is trying to do, and it's not good against everything, but is definitely a solid strat in terms of keeping up your draws in the late game. And then to solidify that, we have some other really solid 30ks in the form of Roomshi, a couple of Beerses for some board wipe, and just because I think it's fun, I'm including a pair of Son Goku 30ks, but obviously not mandatory, heck, may not even be optimal. Outside of that, we are running a not sizable, but decent tournament of power package because Kefla is just really strong. Obviously, Gohan puts in a lot of work, so we're including a few other cards with that tag to kind of keep it all together. There's a few ways to go about building Jiren, and I don't think this is super optimal. It's just kind of something I threw together to show you guys some example gameplay and kind of maximize for trying to showcase what Jiren does best. I will say, however, I've seen other strategies lean on just running like 12 cantrips and just being able to draw their deck that way and hold up their defense. I've seen many strategies lean on utilizing some more powerful 4-drops to be able to kind of apply pressure and not lean so much on the Jiren, because the Jiren's actually not great against blue. So having your red strategy be able to apply pressure and do good things outside of that is going to be really important. And then, you know, there's ways to be able to play it faster and slower. In terms of the extra cards, 1 Sphere of Destruction just has a neat way to be able to clear off something annoying on the board, something like an SS4 Goku, and then put your opponent down to 3 is kind of really sick sequencing there. And then a couple of Glimpses, because obviously it just applies really strong pressure, but at the same time, it also boosts up one of your battle cards up by 25k, which means you'll get something up to 30, thus reactivating Jiren's ability. So if you have something on board that's in rest mode that your opponent then didn't get rid of and then tried to double strike you, you're actually able to protect yourself from there, which is really cool. So something to consider on that front. But at the end of the day, it's mostly just red good stuff off the back that you have a 25k leader that can lock out certain decks from the game. All right, so here we're jumping in against blue, and blue is definitely one of the tougher matchups, specifically being because you're constantly getting your board removed, and it's not just removed, but you're getting your board removed and having to deal with a bunch of like 30ks attacking into you. Blue ends up being the late game beatdown deck and does a really good job at making it really tough for you to stick around. So you need to play in a way that doesn't rely 100% on just doing your late game Jiren stuff. So in that vein, there's a world in which I think we need to be able to play a little bit slower, have a bit more life so that we're able to dig into our deck and be able to just apply with more pressure, play a bit more of a mid-range game. Thankfully, we are in red though, which gives us the benefit that if our opponent goes deep into the Satan City stuff, at the very least, we can utilize our cards to be able to get rid of board. Cards like Catapesla are really strong in being able to get rid of a bunch of the 5Ks that the deck can run. So having these in our back pocket does a really good job of staving off some of the more draw heavy things that the strategy can do. So here we're just running our cycles, and this is really where the draw stuff is more powerful. Our only Pride Troopers in the deck are Jiren and Vuan, which isn't great, and he's just kind of here as a 10k Self-Awakener. So I think these just being raw draws probably would be better if you're looking to play out your own strategy of the deck. Here we're just going to take that, and I think Rumshi is going to be an incredibly powerful tool because just about every single threat outside of Goku Black and the Double Strike Vegeta that this color plays gets hit by Rumshi. He's a fantastic attacker. So the fact that we're able to play that board game against this deck while also being able to attack with a 30k is going to be absolutely massive. So I do love that. As of note, here I'm running the on play Whis as opposed to the activate main Whis, just because I want that additional 10k combo. When I had built the deck initially, it just felt a little bit light on that. So here we're going to go ahead and remove the Satan Cities off the board, just because it's the name that matters the most. Yeah, Pilaf is there and he's a bigger combo power than the Eraser, but we don't really care at this point in time. I also want to start applying some pressure to be able to kind of do some damage. If they want to play defensive, that's fine. Obviously, blue is the late game deck. It'll do that better than we will, but at the very least, we're now surmounting a bit of a board that can apply pressure. In the late game, we'll also be able to get our hands on a Kefla, hopefully, which will allow us to apply for some pressure here. Vegito, and that's the thing, man. It's just blue honestly feels like it can do everything. It does some really powerful things, but ended up going for our 1-drop as opposed to going for our... all right, you couldn't go for Catapult, so never mind. I forgot it's up to 1 or less, but either way, we're not going to get into. So we have Catapult just kind of chilling there, and that 5k is something that can be very useful later on, being able to turn something into range so that we can get rid of it with some combination of Whis, Rumshi, or 3-drop Gohan if we draw into that. So in the 4-cost slot here, there's a few routes we can go. We could just play Jiren, but our opponent's going to 5 next turn, which could threaten them going into something a little bit more powerful. So we're just going to opt to go into removing this Vegito, making it not as easy for him to be able to get rid of our Catapesla or get rid of our Jiren. Because if we play out the Jiren, the only solutions that they have to that are Sickle or being able to SR Vegeta. So the clearing the way out of the Vegito is really powerful for us in just making sure that our 4-drops and our 5-drops actually stick, because 5-drop gaming is likely where we're going to be just because of how much harder it is for this deck to be able to clear that. We did draw into the Kefla as well, which is really nice. So just having that in hand is going to put in some decent work in terms of late game needing just bodies to push. So here we've got another 15k. We're just going to go and take it, and just another 5-drop, which is fantastic here. But of course, 25k is just at a range that's really annoying. Videl can kind of get out of hand because of the amount of cycle that she can provide. So that's going to be something to clear out. We're just going to combo from our board, get rid of that. We're hoping to see an attack from the Vegito here, but if not, that's fine because we can just Beerus this board away. Again, clearing Vegito, super important off of the back of needing our cards to stay at 4 cost, at 5 cost. We see him combo away the Hercule there, which is great because Hercule is obviously another fantastic way for this deck to be able to reduce costs. And Hercule reduces by 2, which is very significant because if you reduce a 5 cost by 2, that gets us down to 3, and then that's in the range of Gohan, which is very, very annoying for us. Either way here, 35k swings, 5-drop turbo is the way that we're going to be opting to apply pressure here. Especially since I really like the fact that we have the backup of Rumshi, we've got the backup of the Double Striker as well, and we do have this Whis to be able to get rid of things. So here, this is not too bad. I mean, being able to get rid of our 1 3-drop is fine. We still have Beerus on board. That feels incredibly powerful for us. We'll go ahead and take both of these hits now because we're in a position where being awakened doesn't feel terrible because we still have the 5-drop on board. There's no real way without some combination of 2 or 3 cards in which they can get rid of multiple things. Here, we even have the option of Sphere of Destruction if we want to utilize that as well, but we'll just go ahead and get rid of it. I think there was an argument there to actually just safe keep it, just because blue in the late game can be really annoying to deal some damage. So looking back, you know, these are pre-recorded games. I think there was definitely an opportunity for us to just do something like play out a Whis and then Sphere of Destruction to get our opponent down to 3. And then we'd still be able to apply pressure. We'd be able to play out some other cards like the Gohan and what have you. But either way, I still think we're in a perfectly fine position. At the very least, because we've sustained a board with a 5-drop over 2 turns. Our opponent took the damage anyways, which is great for us. And now we've got a Roomshi, which is another 5-drop. And now we're in a position where our opponent getting rid of 2 5-drops is almost impossible without going into like a Zeno or some kind of trickery between utilizing Scythe with a couple of cost reducers. It's possible, but it's not easy. And the fact that every 30k swing, we're costing 2 cards from our opponents puts us in a pretty good position, even if our opponent wants to chill at a lower life total. So the fact that they're going with Peel Off here makes me feel really good, just because they're like, okay, cool, we're not getting Zenoed at the very least. Our opponent's gonna have to commit a few plays to kind of make this happen. They're not gonna combo, so they're gonna reduce the cost of something down. I have to presume it's gonna be the Beerus. Then it's gonna be a 3-drop, so then maybe he plays the Gohan after that. But once again, you're only getting rid of 1 card at that point. And I feel pretty good if we can go turn over turn sustaining at least 1 5-drop. So many things here. Could be Sickle, could just be the Gohan. Gohan is also fine as well. And then likely to see a swing into, okay, the Roomshi here, and then probably the combo of the Peel Off. We're 100% protecting this. There's no reason not to. Might as well save our super combos as well. And now we're feeling good here. We can once again get rid of this Gohan if we really want to. And we can apply some good pressure to try and close out the game. Our opponent is very low on cards, only 5 cards in hand. So every time we get them to combo away some stuff, we feel even better. Let's see here. We could just go for the raw Kefla, draw ourselves a card, keep up our advantage, play out a Gohan, and then we can like double Whis if we really wanted to. And that would do a number there. We could attack into the Gohan, just raw like this, try to get some cards out of our opponent's hand. The thing with Kefla though, is that it's good tempo the turn it comes out, but there is a certain level of just how good is it? Because obviously something like Scythe or whatever is something that can clear the board. Here we really want to get rid of the Hercule. There are some games in the past where I've let the Hercule live, and immediately I knew that was a mistake, because if the Hercule lives, it just makes it that much easier for the opponent to be able to mount a comeback by having free reduction off the board without having to pay energy. So just make it harder for them to be able to find the Hercules, to be able to make those cost reduction plays, to be able to get rid of our 3-drops is a big game here. Our opponent has gone down to 2, which is a fantastic position here for our Goku double striker. So if our opponent combos here, we're likely just to take it. I doubt that they would, and they don't, which makes sense. But now we're in a position to be able to close out the game, which feels really good. If they play a 1-drop, that's a little annoying because obviously it's a free 10k, but we'll try to get rid of that. Oh, and then we got a glimpse to just make it final. Then we may as well just close it out right here. So go ahead and clear out the Zeno, swing for 35k, use Glimpse of a Hidden Arrogance. We're going to get ourselves a 10k combo on top of that. And I'm not too sure how many super combos our opponent has used. They may not have used any, so we need to be careful here. But at the end of the day, we're in a position where our opponent would have to clear out a 5-drop. We would be drawing like 1,000,000 cards. So no matter what, we were just in a really solid position, because we would draw 4 additional cards before our opponent would be able to close us out if he went with a double striker without first dealing with the Son Goku while he's on top of it. So honestly, that's where I think the power is, just leaning on those 5-drops and utilizing them to the best of our abilities to make it harder for our blue opponents to be able to get the stuff off the board. All right, so on the other side of the coin here, we have a match against Cell. And this one kind of leans more into the wheelhouse of how powerful Jiren can be. Green can have a hard time because the 4-drop Jiren has KO protection. And if you want to attack into the leader, you're in a position where now we're negating attacks with our 4-drop leader ability. It's just really solid. So previous game, we saw blue, which can be a little bit tougher. Here, hopefully, we can line up into plays that are a little bit better for us. So we really do want to find our 4-drop Jiren, because we just get so much advantage from that point. So here we have a charge of Arena into the 1-cost Goku. Seems like just traditional ramp stuff at the moment. We are going to dig. The fact that we didn't find a Jiren is fine, because we did dig 5 cards deeper, which means we're more likely to come up with one sometime soon. And here, okay, so we do see the combo 25k into our lead. Very interesting choice there. And we did see a Hercule being comboed away. So maybe indicating some Earthling shenanigans. So maybe we're going to see some Gingertown stuff. Remains to be seen. Which can be spooky, honestly. And it does look like we do actually have some Gingertown stuff. So Treasury in Gingertown has been kind of like the new meme build that people have been going with. And it's really fun because you could technically on like turn 3 go to 8 energy if your opponent doesn't deal with your Earthling board at all. Awesome. We found ourselves a 4-cost Jiren. And then on top of that, if you use the new 8-cost cell, then it's just like board wiping your opponent. There's some really fun plays in there for sure. So I think Gingertown is just the fact that we're now in ability where we can explore new fun builds like that is really cool. So here we've got the Bulma draw 1 into a Krillin, digging in, finding a special beam cannon. Okay, that's some interesting spice there for the deck. Not too bad. The thing that Red needs to do against these decks is really mitigate how many Earthlings are on the board. So the more that we can do to clear the Bulmas, and if we had a way, clear out the Krillin, makes it much easier for us to be able to contest our opponent. So here we're going to go ahead and play hit. We're going to get rid of that Bulma, prevent our opponent from being able to use Gingertown for maximum value. Of course, Krillin is still an Earthling, so you'd be able to get a ramp there. And I do think that's where those Gingertown decks can put themselves in a better position, is if they utilize, you know, bigger 20Ks that are easier to stick on board for a couple of turns to be able to guarantee their ramp off. And then obviously you have the farmer, who's a 0 cost to kind of just turbo those out of your hand. So now we're in a pretty cozy position. We've got a 20k on board. We'll just protect that. There's no reason not to. We're 1 life away from Awakening, which can be really strong in combination with our Jiren SR, which our opponent may have a tough time to deal with. All right, so here we see the Roshi's gonna grab back Arena from his energy and replace that. And then we see Farmer, and then we go into a Tragedy in Gingertown for a ramp of 3, putting our opponent at 7. So like, look, next turn now we're gonna have to deal with something with 8, you know, and that's just gonna be a little bit crazy. So we're going to go ahead and take that attack because that puts us at 3, which is where we want it to be for this Jiren anyways, especially since our opponent is now in a position where they can play Broly against us, or they can play the Cell SR. So the fact that we're in a position now to be able to have full advantage of our 4-drop is going to put us in a really good position. If I recall this match though, unfortunately it doesn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, because I totally forget that Cell got a brand new 8-drop that is going to send all of our cards into the energy area. Completely forgot that's a thing. Didn't realize that people were on that, which why wouldn't you be? So it's going to be very interesting seeing how the opponent plays this one out. So we're going to go into our 4-drop because I'm like, oh yeah, easy. There is nothing that our opponent can do that deals with this. It's a massive 30k swing. It's going to force a super combo out of our opponent's hand, and we're chilling. We cannot possibly lose from this position, which may still be true. We do have an 11 card hand, but our opponent's about to make a play that's going to make us oh, okay, this isn't it. All right, cool. Because I do play a game where that happens, and we're now playing like 10 energy to 10 energy, and it gets kind of crazy. This though, I feel super comfortable with. Our opponent doesn't combo. They were just going for the draw. That is perfectly fine. And then depending on what they know or what they don't know or what they may or may not know. All right, so go ahead and grabs those 2 Earthlings, swings for 40. And this is where that attack negation happens. We're going to get our 2 draws, and then we don't even need to care about the attack because we've already taken damage that turn. We're going to take the hit, but then Jiren's permanent takes place. We've already been dealt 1 damage for this combat. We do not take further damage. Super powerful. And now we're in a position where we can just drop a 2nd Jiren. And now green is in a really tough position where if you don't have a way to just send those cards to energy, now you're staring at Jirens that have KO prevention, which is how all of your removal works. And we're drawing additional cards every single turn. So this is where it is extremely backbreaking for some decks. Yellow has a really hard time dealing with multiple Jirens. Green has an incredibly tough time dealing with multiple Jirens. So the more that you can utilize that if you are playing Jiren, then all the better for you. We're going to go ahead and get some dig. There's not much we can find, but hey, replacing a 5k combo for a 10k combo is always welcome. Not to life, not much our opponent can do. He can play Broly, but of course, all that's going to do is replace one of the KOs. So now, this is the only part that's iffy. The game does not do a good job of indicating which Brolys he tried to KO. I am assuming that it is this Jiren because he's attacking into this Jiren. But honestly, it was really tough to tell. And there needs to be a better way to indicate that. And if it exists, please let me know in the comments below, because I wasn't entirely sure. And this is definitely something that can make someone lose a game if they're not aware of what has what. I think the glowing shows that we're out of activates, which is cool. But either way, anyways, we're going to let this Jiren go because I didn't want to put ourselves in a position where then they would attack into that and we'd lose too many cards, especially since we've got this Jiren and we have the backup of another Jiren the turn afterwards. So we feel perfectly fine. No combos here from the Cell player. And then this is where our opponent was smart. They opted to not attack with this. So like, yes, we didn't get to draw an additional 2, which sucks, but we're already at 12 cards in hand and our opponent didn't attack into us, which is like, look, at the end of the day, if this is a position where we're just attacking and our opponent's not attacking because they're concerned of X, Y, or Z, that is perfectly fine with me as well. We do also have the option of double strike here. So our opponent comboed a ton. And I'm like, okay, so if they're comboing a bunch of 5Ks to make that work, they must not have a lot going on. So we could do two things. We could apply with the double strike and close out the game, or we can keep doing this. Our opponent will not really be able to do much against our board for this turn. We're going to draw a bunch of cards, but we're pretty sealed in that next turn we're able to go into the Goku to be able to close out the game. Play this little just cheeky blocker because in my head, I'm like, okay, so he can play a Cell or a Broly or something else, but now he would have to use up his KO on the little blocker as opposed to using it on the Jiren, which would make it harder for him to be able to attack into it. And if he doesn't do that, we have the blocker to prevent one of the Broly swings. So it just felt like a good in between. So here he used up one of his KOs to be able to deal with the blocker as opposed to one of the Jirens, which puts us in a really solid position. Here, no reason for us to not just get our raw draws. So we're just going to go ahead and take advantage of that. And of course, we could just also protect this Jiren. And now we're in a no loss position. Either way, that's going to absorb one of the KOs. So we feel perfectly fine here. And now the question is, do we save this ability or not? I ought to still just save it because if our opponent does nothing, they only have a 4-card hand. We're not losing this next turn. So here they go into the Krillin, try to draw into a meteor. Yeah, either a meteor or earth destroying or something of the sort. Here, there's no reason to not protect this Jiren. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. And we could use our Jiren ability. But I figured there's no reason to not do so. Kind of just chill out here and then put our opponent in a position where they either attack with Broly or they don't attack with Broly. I just don't want to make it too free for our opponent to attack into us. So we didn't get the additional draw, but that's okay because we got the double strike. We have many means to deal damage. We're going to force cards out of our opponent's hand by attacking into him. So here the goal is to really just get him to use his gigantic meteors, get him to use any remaining super combos in hand. A 30k is one of those cards where it's like, you're 10 above, so you can use 2 cards or 1 cards. So let's dwindle our opponent's hand down, and then we're just going to close out with a double strike and a lot of combo power. So with both of these swings, we're able to force him to use both of his gigantic meteors. That makes me feel so much better about going in with this Goku now to close out the game. We're going to get rid of a Krillin because it's the only real thing we can go ahead and get rid of. We still have protection with this Jiren going into the next turn if for whatever reason this was going in, but this is 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, 85, 95, 105, 115, 120, 125 combo, which is way too much for our opponent's 3-card hand. Jiren's abilities force a lot of decks to be pushed out of the meta. Green decks are going to struggle unless they're specifically using energy removal type stuff. And when it comes to decks like yellow, it almost feels auto loss because of your inability to really interact with Jiren's board. And sure, you can keep his stuff in rest mode, but his stuff wants to be in rest mode anyways, which just creates this really tough position that's hard to overcome, especially when you consider how good all of Red's cards are. It's probably arguably one of the best good stuff colors. So you tie that in with a leader ability that really doesn't take much to get online, and it can put you in some really solid positions. But at the same time, because the combo is so linear, there's a lot of ways to deal with it, and you might have to work around some really tough blue matchups. With that said, I think Jiren is a really fun strategy. It's a solid strategy. It's a gatekeeper strategy. And I think something that we're going to see players lean onto quite a bit in the set 3 meta. That said, catch you guys on the next one.